One.
Hi, welcome to the Freeman Conversations. I'm Jobert Oka, the online editor of the Freeman. And today I'm very excited because we'll be talking about something that my generation, I was corrected earlier, my generation grew up with, but we have to clarify that.
Our generation.
Yes, my generation grew up with, and that is reading actual physical books. So we'll be talking about that, and of course we'll be talking about the love for and our reading, and a local Cebu initiative that tries to reinstill that love for reading, especially among the young.
Yes.
And I'm doubly excited because I'm with two incredible, strong-willed women with me today. One of them is, of course, the founder of Book Swap Cebu, Attorney Chappy Piramide. Thank you very, very much for being here.
Thank you.
And on her right is Miss Cebu 2016, Rain Baljak, a very strong supporter of Book Swap Cebu, a businesswoman and health and fitness advocate. And later on, if we have the time, Rain will be sharing with us her new initiatives and projects. So, ladies, thank you very much for joining us today. And let's talk about Book Swap Cebu. I was actually getting afraid that the love for reading actual books is starting to get lost. And then I saw Book Swap Cebu online.
I was actually also very afraid that the art of reading the physical books was lost in my generation and in younger generations, younger than our.
a little bit younger than ours.
Yeah, but we were very surprised on the very first activity that we had for Book Swap Cebu. We had a great reception from Cebuanos, from young people who were just looking for this kind of avenue to talk about books and to share books with other people. And it's funny how Book Swap Cebu started. It really started as an urge to work on an advocacy. So I had a couple of, at least 3 interests that I had in mind, but this was the very first thing that was practical and necessary for me to do. So
why is it necessary?
Because when you have that passion, you cannot help but feel being pushed towards it. So there was this great push internally for me to do something like this. It was the first week of 2016 when we created.
During her reign.
During her reign. Exactly. So we created an event, and people or book swappers would know that it was supposed to be a private event, but I initially scrapped that and made a public event. And so I was surprised that the event page was being shared so many times, and like, oh my gosh.
You were not prepared for the response, for the kind of response it was getting.
Certainly, I was not. And people I didn't know were sharing it, and people were tagging other readers as well. And so, in Facebook, normally people who share or like your posts are your friends, your family, your relatives.
Circle of friends.
Exactly. And when this was created, we were surprised that a lot of people we didn't know outside our circles, even beyond the 6 degrees of people were sharing the event page.
So the purpose of that event was simply, literally, to swap books.
And we have a hashtag, we call it Trading Treasures, because we want to come there. We just don't want to get a book that we don't like, the book in our library that we don't like, and we want to swap with the people.
Because normally that's what happens.
Exactly.
You dispose of those you like the least.
Right.
And keep the ones you love.
Exactly. That's it. So we thought of creating the hashtag Trading Treasures, because we don't want people to come there wanting just to dispose of the books that they did not like. So we had a Trading Treasures with an idea in mind that this is something.
You really value, and
something that you really value.
Is this yours?
This is mine. This was given by my sister. Thank you, Ate Bea, for this. Derek Jeter is my favorite athlete of all time from the New York Yankees. He just retired, I think, 4 years ago. But anyway, the idea was to bring a book that you treasure, bring a book that you think other people will learn from, and then I find that person who will also treasure it, who will be also excited to read that book.
And to take care of it.
And to take care of it.
Okay.
Treasure it similar to how you do.
Yeah. And then maybe after the person reads the book, bring that book again for swap, maybe, and swap again.
And you're sharing knowledge, you're engaging other people.
Exactly. Right.
Who did you organize this with?
So I am very lucky that I have found my tribe. And I have to say this, my tribe is coming from Toastmasters International. These are the people that I've worked with, that I trust my events to, with whatever my position is. And these people have that same mindset as me. They love events and they love sharing. They love creating something new and something different. And so when I brought them in, they were immediately sold to the idea. This was something
Are these also people who love to read?
Yes, they love to read.
Seeing as they're public speakers, they must enjoy literature.
They love to read. They love to read.
They really have beautiful voices when they're in the room. You really feel their presence.
Yeah. That's true.
And who are these? Please mention them.
Hi.
Yeah.
So actually the conversation started with two other young ladies that I had a meeting with. Toastmaster Mariam Soliano, hello, happy birthday.
Hi guys.
And then Chalet Antigo. We just had a meeting. This was again for Toastmasters, and Mariam was bringing a book with her, and we just started talking about what books we were reading. And then we thought of, hey, why not let's swap? Yeah, and let's create an event. And that's how we really just created an event. And it was funny because we made that event even without thinking of the mechanics or the procedures of the event. So like, oh my gosh, we have to make this happen because it's already there, we can't take it back. Right, and it's funny because we were starting to discuss, or starting to look for a venue, and one of the owners of Honduras, shout out to Zara, saw that post, and she was not informed that we were gonna have an event at her place, and so we had to run to her, literally to tell her, come on, I'm sorry, we did not inform you in advance, but can we invite ourselves to your restaurant? That was it.
And she said yes,
and
of
she
course.
said yes, thank you, and we had to change the venue at Honduras Pizza Mango. That's why Book Swap Cebu was born, and we'll forever have that home at Honduras Pizza Mango. And shout out to the Smith family, we love you.
If you are watching us, guys, please join in the conversation,
Yes.
post your comments and questions, and of course, we'd be glad to talk to you as we are live here. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, and so come January, remember the date, January 8, 2016. So before that, we had 4 days to prepare the mechanics. And I only realized until then that there have been swaps all over the world. Like there are swaps that are done in restaurants, over cocktails, over drinks. There are swaps that are done in fairs, really big fairs. There are swaps that are done online. And then there are even swaps that are done in hotels, where guests would just leave their book and just get a book from whoever owns, whatever.
The hotel Mall does the same thing.
That's awesome. So the practice of swapping has been already there.
Almost natural.
Yeah.
In a sense.
Yeah, and we have that practice. Like readers have that practice. Like, wait, that looks like an interesting book. Can I borrow it? And you can borrow from mine, and that's really essentially the idea of Book Swap Cebu. But just to add something new to the experience, we had to create something that was uniquely our own. And that is why we have performances. That's why we had Rain read to us. Because it's a different feel altogether.
Was she there in the first event?
No, she was with us for the dating. For the dating swap. The blind date with the book.
This is in February.
You would bring her like a book.
August.
Oh,
My first one, I think, was maybe March or
How
May.
did you learn about Book Swap?
No, actually, I remember the date. It's May 23, 2016. I wasn't there, but you read for young children at
So
Cebu
like
City
you said,
Public
there's a
Library.
lot of really young children there, about 4 years old and up.
Yeah.
Even adults,
Where was
teenagers. This
Cebu City Public Library.
Okay.
was our library and
Yeah.
museum.
How did you learn about Book Swap?
We invited her.
Yes. At the time. And friendly group of people. I came and everyone, not like theatrical where it's like very big and grandiose, but
Yeah.
you had that clear voice, you had the personality where you're bringing characters to life. So for kids, it's really fun, really engaging them, and so the stories just leaped out of the page. And I read a little passage from The Little Prince, and there was a very young girl who won the book because they had, I think, a giveaway part. There were 3 books to give away.
Yeah.
And then, very nice. I remember there was also a portion where they were accepting donations, that anyone else who'd like to accept books, you're able to receive some too.
Yes.
But there was one young lady I spoke to before the entire reading part, and turns out that I knew one of her cousins. So
Oh,
you never really
small
knew
world.
who you meet in the
Yeah.
process, but
Yeah.
it's really just bringing communities together over the
Right, right,
literature.
right.
And for these kids to just see them so happy, so engaged, and they're so connected, it's
I
really
think what's
beautiful.
nice also about this one is that unlike other swaps that are happening around, these actually bring people together,
Yes.
Yes.
right? And you don't just leave a book there and someone else will get it and you get another book, but you actually get to meet the owner of the book.
Yeah. You get to engage.
You converge, yes, you engage, you get to converse, you can actually take a look at the history of the book.
Mm-hmm.
So there is an actual conversation. So there's a formal, so to speak, formal turnover of your treasure
That's exactly
to the next owner.
Yeah, and that's what I think hooked the people who went to the first swap, because we asked them to put notes on the book, asking them why they're going to trade that book, and these are really reasons why they love the book. And if you are somebody who can relate to that particular item on that note, then
calls
it
your soul.
calls you.
Yeah.
Like I need this. I need this in my life. And
There's an instant connection.
Yes, exactly. Yes. We were happy when Rain was part of the first swap that we did at the Cebu City Public Library. The idea was to bring people back to libraries, the places for learning.
Okay, yeah.
And so we had one friend who told us that it was her first, actually there were a lot of them who told us that that was their first time going to the library or going back after so many years, just passing by.
You know, that's what I find really ironic, because here in the Philippines, no one goes to the public libraries. No one even is aware there is a public
You
library.
can even get your own card now.
Right.
Yeah,
Library.
Yeah.
But in other countries, public libraries are places where
Places.
people actually converge.
Yes.
Especially university and high school students
Right.
who are looking for information.
Yes,
That's where they
exactly.
go.
Correct?
Yeah.
Adults who want to maybe take away from the stress that they have in their daily life, the reality, they go to the fantasy of books, or they need more information. So
Yeah.
it's the place to go.
Alongside that, we come from different generations.
Yes. Thank you for acknowledging
We come
that.
from different generations. But not so far away from each other. Why do you like getting a book, an actual book, and reading it?
Because
My reason is that I like holding it. Holding an actual physical book and actually smelling the book.
Oh yes.
Especially the new ones.
yeah.
The smell is addictive.
Yeah.
What about you? What do you like about it? Because we have Kindle now, we have tablets.
Because truth be told, when I was young we didn't have gadgets.
Yeah.
We didn't have Kindle, we didn't have smartphones, come on. That's why I think the discipline is different from readers in our generation compared to younger readers, because they can just get a gadget. They have the option not to read, in all honesty, with so many things that are being bombarded to them. They have the option not to read. Whereas in our generation, it was a must, at least for me, it was a must read. If you want to be entertained, if you're not the outdoorsy type, if you want to be entertained, you get a book. That's free
Or if you
entertainment.
didn't have Google to do your school
Yes,
research, you had to
exactly.
look in the atlas, the almanac, the encyclopedia,
Right.
you're
Yes.
skimming through the whole index trying to find all that information.
Right, we didn't have Google during our
Who
time.
didn't have that? We
Did
only
you already have Google?
It
maybe.
came later.
Yeah.
I still have that time with my encyclopedia.
Yeah.
It's still there in our bookshelf.
Yeah.
Right.
The discipline is
Right.
different,
It
right?
really is. I grew up in, I think, in a similar sense to the both of you, where either I was outdoors or indoors reading, and I think it was my grandparents who instilled the reading trait to me, and the love for knowledge, because you're reading someone's point of view on something. They're sharing with you
That's true.
information, they're sharing with you their research, or you're being taken into like a fantasy story that
Yeah.
kind of opens your heart. You feel you're in great awe.
It can be an escape as well.
Yeah.
So that's the beauty of literature in that sense, and like to just hold it. It's easier to share, and you don't have like that glaring light.
Right.
I think in this generation, my brother's time, he's 14 years old, so we have a 7-year gap. He's staring at a screen, and it's so much faster. They can access so much information quicker,
Right.
and you instead of reading it, YouTube stars now do book reviews, so you can get the gist of it, or you can listen to an audio podcast.
Yeah,
Right,
that's true.
There's a lot of different platforms to enjoy a book now. I'm not
Yeah.
sure what the best
That's
form
true.
is, but
Right.
it's
Reading is-
incomparable to hold the physical
Yeah.
piece of literature, because it's been like that for forever, right?
Yeah. And you know what I realized? Before, because it was expensive, if you were in high school or elementary during our time,
Mm-hmm.
it was expensive to get a book
Mm-hmm.
from your allowance, using your allowance. So what we did was we actually rented books.
Mm.
We rented books, and each book, I remember, could cost 10 pesos or 15 pesos, and you can have it for 3 days.
So it's not in at the library that you can rent.
Yeah,
You
because
have like the library card where you sign your name,
Yeah.
the date
Yeah.
they take it out,
Because
the
you-
decimal system, and the number.
right. But there were actually shops before
Yes.
dedicated to renting out
That's
novels
awesome.
or books.
Oh.
So in my hometown in Dumaguete, there were several of them. And when I was in high school, I actually spent a substantial amount of my allowance
Yeah, okay.
in books, just to rent books. And for example, if you have one book, you can only have it for 3 days.
Mhm.
You're forced to actually finish it in 3 days.
In 3 days.
So in 1 month, you can actually finish several already. So unlike now, if you read from a tablet, for example, you have a lot of disturbances.
Yes.
You can go to websites,
Yeah, that's true.
and then your messenger pops up, and then Facebook, and all those things. Do you agree? Do you share the same experience? Have you tried renting out books?
I haven't, but just to answer again the question that you had asked us, I think I thought I had a normal childhood because I grew up in a bookstore. My grandparents own a bookstore called Oriental Bookstore. So we're not Laking National Bookstore, we're actually Laking Oriental Bookstore.
This was in Cebu.
This was in Cebu. So I grew up in that. And I thought that it was normal, people just getting, like children my age, just getting books for free because I had a privilege. Like I just get a book off the shelf of Nanay's bookstore and I just read, and if I'm done with it, I'll just return it.
Mm-hmm.
See, I think I was lucky in that aspect.
You're very lucky.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why I think, yeah.
What kind of books did you read when you were young?
Let's qualify. Elementary days, I just stuck with Sweet Valley Twins and Sweet Valley Kids and maybe a little bit of Nancy Drew.
Yeah.
And when I was in 4th grade, I had classmates, hi to Bayan Pakan. She was starting to read Sweet Valley High and Sweet Valley University,
Mm-hmm.
and even R.L. Stein. And for me, I did not want to stray away from Sweet Valley Twins and Kids because I thought that I could not handle content in those books. So when I was until the 6th grade, I can only muster up to Unicorn Club. Yeah, but I think after elementary, my brother actually threw me that's why I have these. Threw me a Jeffrey Archer book and told me to stop reading those. I think you should graduate.
What does he write? Or what did he write?
The first book that I've ever read of Jeffrey Archer was, I think, As the Crow Flies, and I was just mesmerized. Imagine reading from a 60-page Sweet Valley Twins and to graduating to something like that has 500 pages.
Yeah.
So like that was a total leap from genres.
Right. I can relate to that because
Yeah.
from like Hardy Boys, I
Mhm.
transitioned to Sidney Sheldon.
Oh, see?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. What about you,
Sidney
Ray?
Sheldon.
What did you read
Growing
when you
up?
were younger? Yeah. What kind
When
of
I
books
was
were you
in-
exposed to?
Kindergarten, the Berenstain Bears.
Oh.
If you're familiar,
Mhm.
storybooks, because I'm
Yeah.
in kindergarten. Then as I went through elementary, my grandmother and grandfather, they were really into different tasks and hobbies. So my grandma liked sewing, she liked cooking, she liked making things, and my grandfather, he tinkered with cars.
Mm.
My uncle, he made woodwork furniture. So being exposed to their hobbies, I always thought of books as a reference for information. So I always like gathering like information and knowledge because of the things that they enjoy doing.
You understand what they were doing.
Yeah. Fantasy books weren't a big thing for me, but I grew up around a lot of kids like that in my school. They really enjoyed that. Nancy Drew, there was Judy Brown, you had the Hardy Boys.
Right.
But then being around these members of my family who enjoyed literature, it was more of like books are for reference. My mom, she models, she liked to look at fashion books, art books, to see poses, color patterns. And then my uncle, it was woodworks, metalworks kind of thing. And then eventually my grandmother started showing me, because her background, she's a nurse. So she really enjoyed medicinal properties of naturology. So homeopathic kind of practices. So I learned there, like, wow, these plants can do this, and they can do that. This is not witchcraft, but it's really healing, right? That's what I appreciate about it. Wherever you are in the world, someone writes something, and it's their observation of what they practice, what they learn, and then it gets passed down to you.
Right.
So these books were then passed down from my grandparents to now me and my uncle. And it's just very interesting to gather this information. You're like, wow, okay, so this is set here in the United States. We don't have these plants because we have these tropical plants. So you try to discover what's something that's similar to this region of the world. So in that sense, I thought books were really fascinating because it tells a lot, not only of the story that they're trying to share with you, the information, but also it tells about the author. That time frame, the location, what's it like to be in that setting. I think with classics, it's also like that.
Yeah. And you were in what age when you were reading these books?
I was introduced to it maybe 2nd grade.
Wow.
Around that time. I wasn't like reading it all by myself because I was guided by an adult. But the love for literature has grown up with me. I don't know if I can pinpoint it exactly.
Yeah.
It's just something that it like supplements what you're learning. I think if you really love what it is that you're doing, books help kind of supplement that, and then it adds more to the things that you're learning in the physical sense, where you're practicing yourself, and then it's like, oh, you can try this.
Yeah, and that's really incredible because that age, I was reading comics.
My mom like those.
I still love my Archie comics until today.
That's true. That's true.
What about you?
The question is?
Yeah, what did you grow up with?
Right. Yeah, Sweet Valley Twins, Sweet Valley Kids. But I think the book that made me really become a reader was, I remember, there were 2 books actually. I remember reading these during the summer before first year high school. I think because I had mumps then, so I had like time to just stay home and just reflect about life. And when you're reflecting about life, you see this bookshelf in front of you. And so like, yeah, I remember these 2 books really changed my love, really honed my love for reading. Jonathan Livingston Seagull, I'm sure you know.
Oh yes.
Right? And To Kill a Mockingbird.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course. It's a classic. To Kill a
I'm not a
Mockingbird.
big fan.
It's fine.
I've read it, but
it's fine. It's fine.
It has different effects on and different people.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I really agree with that.
Yes.
A number of people who've read that and they
It can
love
make
it,
you,
and they
it can,
feel
To Kill,
it can make you stronger,
yeah.
or it can
Make you question.
It can make you question. It can leave you disillusioned. So a lot of effects.
I liked it more. I just felt like the plot was building up more from the middle towards the end. I'm just getting to the first bits. I was a little bit like, come on, you know?
Yeah. Because the first part really talked about the childhood of Jeremy Fincher, Jem and Jean Louise, right? Whereas in the second part of the book, the author already starts talking about the case against Tom Robinson.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
Yeah, it was exciting.
That's when the momentum builds.
Yes. For me, I really loved it because I can relate to Jean Louise Finch. What's her name? Scout. Because her father is a lawyer, and my father is also a lawyer.
Yeah.
There's so many things in Atticus that I also see in my father. That's why when I read that book, I thought, oh my gosh, this is describing my dad. Atticus is really like my dad. And I just fell in love with Atticus and tried to understand why he does these things to his children. And I was thinking about this last night. I think why I like Atticus in the story is because he was kind, he was loving, he was patient with his children, but at the same time he was fierce. He was he was a brilliant lawyer. So is my dad.
Did that also inspire you to become a lawyer?
Not really. The person who inspired me to be a lawyer is, of course, Attorney Evan.
Okay.
Yeah, but I just fell in love with the characters. So.
Who introduced you to the book?
No one. I think
Just
it was
picked it
just
up
on
one
the
day?
shelf of my sister's room, and I just like, let's see what this is all about. And there, boom.
Yeah,
Meant to
Yeah.
be.
right. You brought with you favorite books, Rain. Can you share those books with us? Your favorite books.
Okay. Just move this a bit. So one of my favorite writers of all time is Masaru Emoto. He's a Japanese writer, and this was the first book that I read. He's written, I think, 6 or 7, and it's all about his research and studying the molecules of water. So what he did throughout his life was he studied how when you say certain things to water, it affects its shape, or if you play certain music. So when you played classical music like Beethoven or Chopin, it would make these beautiful crystals.
Oh.
Versus if you were
That's
opposed
interesting.
to if you were to make like you would play heavy rock metal, it just made terrible like crystals.
Yeah.
So he explored these concepts and he
Wow.
did studies on them. If you'd like to take a look at
Wow.
the images. So the person who introduced this to me was Teka Ba'an of the
Oh my
Cebu
God,
City
Daisy.
Tourism Commission.
Daisy one?
Oh, it's Teka.
Oh, sorry.
And when she introduced it to me, I was like, that sounds really interesting, how human consciousness can affect molecules. And it's and this man just explores the aspect of it. When you say prayers, if you say thank you, if you say I love you versus I hate you, if you say
Thank
swear
you.
words,
Right.
it just makes something more healing.
It's a New York Times bestseller.
Oh yes. So
Where
here's
can we get
other
this?
titles.
Where did he
from
get
the
these
messages,
books?
True Power of Water. My aunt brought them for me. Because when she heard that I was interested with this, she was like, okay. So a lot of my books actually came from family members, if not friends.
Well, that's nice.
So we can't get this in.
You can borrow it from me.
Ah,
I've lent
we
it
can
to a
swap.
few of my friends, actually. And what's so nice about physical books is
What have you done?
I
to
take
the
a lot
book?
of notes.
That's
It
so
has become
awesome.
too
That's what I
powerful.
read. I put like tabs. I write with
Yeah,
pencil because in
yeah.
case like
I
recently.
do that
That's
too, yeah.
nice.
yeah.
That's how I kind of. That's my little bits. Like, oh, I like this point. I'll draw an arrow.
Right.
Like a little.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Or like, oh, this reminds me of this other author. This other thing I heard from Somersault.
Yeah.
A little
So
note.
nice.
And that's how I like to read. I just add little things.
You
on
can't
this.
do that. You can't do that if you read it online.
On the
Yeah.
PDF,
Yeah.
I tried.
You can. There's an option to highlight, right? You have an option to highlight
To
the
highlight-
passages
You
that
can
you
even
like.
comment now, but it's just
Right.
it's
You can
so,
comment?
The satisfaction
The
is different. Yeah. That's why I always have a highlighter in my bag.
right.
That's
Sorry.
nice.
To all of those students who I think in law, you also have to do
Yeah,
a
we
lot of
have to,
highlighting,
we
or in the
have
field
to.
of medicine is also a lot.
Yeah, we have
Yeah,
to.
yeah.
But that's how you really, I think, enjoy a book.
Yes.
Just, you make these connections.
You have to own the book.
Yeah. And another writer that I like, I read it on a PDF copy, was Yasunori Kawabata. He's also Japanese.
Okay.
And the first and only Nobel Prize winning Japanese author.
Oh,
And he wrote it about, that award was
what
given.
year did he get the award?
That I cannot.
All right, that's
I'm
fine.
very sorry, but the book is called Snow Country. So if you know Memoirs of a Geisha.
Yeah, Arthur Golden.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's kind of like that, and it explores how this businessman, he goes back into like nature in Japan and how serene everything is. And what I appreciate about these two writers is the detail that they put not only to explaining something, but like the scenario. It's just so
Visual.
vivid. It's very visual.
Yeah.
And
They can paint with their words.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's the fun thing about reading, how your imagination now comes out when it's kind of playing with these words that you're looking at. It's not just given to you by a director in a film. This is your own interpretation.
Yeah.
So when you have someone else who maybe has read the same story, it's like, wow, that's what you thought? I thought about this. Maybe, have you seen Miss Peregrine?
Oh, yes, the movie.
Yeah.
The movie?
I haven't read the book.
I read the book first.
Oh, good.
On like the day that it came out, I just saw it in a bookshop, and I was with my aunt at the time, and I had
So you had to read the book first before watching.
It's so
Yeah, I have watched it and haven't read it. They say it's
Yeah.
also beautiful. The book's also beautiful.
Yeah, but
the
it had
book
mixed
will
reviews.
really. It's so different from actually the way that you vision the house may be very similar.
Okay.
But the way that the characters come to life in your mind, it's very different. What I thought was so capturing and enticing about this story was the writer likes to go to garage sales, and in bins of these old photos, he'll just pick them up. I like this one. This one's weird. This one's, oh my goodness. And then he'll just make a story out of it. And it's really, I thought, okay, wow, this is something so special. And this is his own imagination, but in my perception of it, in life, nothing really comes out of nothing because we're not God. Our ideas or thoughts always come from somewhere else. It just kind of builds. I'm like, it's quite interesting how this is his perception of it. Thinking, I was like maybe 15, 16, 17 at the time. I was like, you know what? Maybe I would have had the same thoughts. He just beat me to it first.
That's right.
It's really interesting though that writers have this ability. I think it's a gift to be able to do that to a reader.
Yeah, that's
It's
right.
very special.
Touch
your soul.
Yeah.
This touched my soul in a great time, so shout out to Miss Teta introducing this to me. And to any individual who maybe wants to look at the healing properties of this physical world and the beauty and the magic of water, because our bodies are composed when we're in the fetal stages, we're 100% water. And then we're birthed and we go through life. By the time we're 7 years old, we decrease to 70 to 50% of water. But it's in us. Water is just everywhere, and it carries messages of time, the truth of the universe.
And this is what the book discusses.
Yes, with scientific study. So this is not our imagination anymore. Because the study of water, according to Masaru Emoto, it's relatively young. Compared to other sciences, and before it was just looked as like, oh, this is alchemy, you're a witch, I burn you. So now it's like, okay, we have the backing of science, and there's the chemistry, there's the information, so it's really worth taking a look at.
Yeah.
And
I hope,
you see, we're already learning.
Yeah, exactly.
And we haven't even read the book.
I hope bookstores in the Philippines would carry these titles.
You know what's really
interesting
great?
To read that book.
Some bookshops here in Cebu, I don't want to plug in any names, but
I think you can.
I can.
Yeah, go
Book sale is really helpful.
I always go there.
I call them up, hey, do you have these little books?
I go to book sale a lot.
And if not, then there's always National Bookstore, and then there's always Fully Booked. And everyone is just so helpful. Really, it makes you just want to come back all the time. You're like, oh, this is home. And then you walk inside, you don't come out, it's like 3 hours later, oops.
I will bring nothing, actually. Sometimes.
A bookstore is always home.
Yeah, for me.
If not, then a library. But like you said, it's a little bit.
Yeah, it needs more books. It needs
actually,
more
our
books.
bookstores here
Needs more love. We just need to go
Needs
in
more
there.
love.
Yeah, needs more books.
What about you, Chap? Who are your favorite authors and what are your favorite books?
Actually,
You've mentioned
some of these are the favorite reads that I've had.
These are just songs. These are just songs.
These are some, but it's interesting. I just like to connect to what he said about Arthur Golden, who wrote Memoirs of a Geisha. I don't have a copy. I think I lent it to my sister. I can't remember people who borrow my books, so don't say I've forgotten you.
I still have one with me.
Really?
Yeah. I still have one with me, a thin one. I forget the title, but it's a thin one.
Yeah. But I like Arthur Golden. I like Memoirs. I think we can relate to each other because we like Japan. We like studying Japanese.
It's really fascinating. The culture.
And the details in the book.
Yeah. Have you read Memoirs?
Yes, in college.
Oh my gosh, I can't even begin to describe to those who haven't read the book yet.
Have you guys read it?
To read the book. I mean, us
Memoirs of a
describing
Geisha?
the book.
It became a movie eventually with
suffice.
Zhang Ziyi in it.
Yeah.
Am I correct? Is that Zhang Ziyi in
I
the movie?
forgot. I don't know. But it's totally different when you read the book. It's because the author, yes, it's a gift. The author has the gift of describing in detail colors. Example, he described colors in the kimono, and it felt for me like it was alive. It came alive.
The setting, the
Yeah.
characters.
Yeah, that's why
So you love that.
I love that book. Yeah, and so many books out here.
So you have To Kill a Mockingbird, that one. What else do you recommend? What else is your favorite?
Oh my gosh, so many things. But I'll tell you one story. This is a funny story.
Aside from law books, that is.
Yeah. The Philippine
Because we actually have,
Constitution.
you mentioned this is one of the oldest.
Yes.
What is this?
This is the oldest in my father's and my libraries combined. This actually came from my lolo. This is an 1896 book, Código Penal, and this is in Spanish.
Wow.
Right? This is 100.
Tu habla español?
Yeah, no, I'm so sorry.
No, but when the Spaniards inhabited the Philippines, Cebu, they brought their literature with them. My uncle, aside from making furniture, he also liked to mine. So we have books with this similar binding, 18th century, and it's about mining. It's also some in Spanish, some in English. It's incredible.
You have to keep those.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I'm sure this will fetch a lot. I'm not selling this to the Philippines.
So what else do we have here?
This is a treasure that I have. I have something. So I have a story that I love, East of Eden. Who doesn't? I have a story to tell. I went to a book signing of Mitch album. This is by National Bookstore.
Oh, really?
They have one
This is
recently also.
Yeah.
Mitch Albom is the author of a very popular book,
Tuesdays with Morrie.
Tuesdays with Morrie.
5 People Meet in Heaven.
Five People Meet in
And
Heaven.
I forgot the other ones. But yeah, I met the gentleman. He's amazing. And when people were lining up, they just shook hands. They just took a picture. But I thought of asking him questions.
Yeah.
It was an opportunity.
I had to ask him.
Yeah.
I had the opportunity to ask him. And so I think I asked about 3 questions and people were like shooing me away, but he was he was being a gentleman. He just accommodated my questions. And so I asked him one of the 3 questions that I asked him was, if there is a book you think, if there is a book that you wish you wrote, what book would that be? If there is a book out there you wish you wrote, what book would that be? And he said instantly, Gilead by Marilyn Robinson.
And you have it?
That's why after the book signing, I just had to go to Fully Book
Oh,
and to get that book. And luckily, they have a copy of this Fully Book, and I was surprised to realize that this also won a Pulitzer. Right, so I got that. I have a penchant for Pulitzer Prize books, Nobel Prize. That's why some of the books here are award winners. I also have like this one, Adventures of Cavalier and Clay by Michael Chabon. I follow his Facebook page. He has a Facebook page. So this is one of my favorite books. Don't tell me what it is. You have to read that. And then I'm also very partial to I didn't bring
Well, C.S. Lewis is very nice.
Yeah, of course.
Like the classics.
Yeah.
Here. I started to read this person when I was in college. You see, when you're in college, you can't read many books. You only have the time to read textbooks, right? And Mr. Paris, oh my gosh, I don't have time to read anything else. But I discovered this Portuguese writer, Jose Saramago. He's also a Pulitzer Prize winner. The first book of his that I read was Blindness. And I think it was made into a movie. The premise of the book, Blindness, was, what if everybody in the entire world became blind? So like everybody in the community became blind, except for everybody. And so he was describing what people were doing, their reactions, how they were dealing with blindness. So after that entire ordeal, as quickly as when people started to become blind, people started to get back their vision. And there was this one person.
It's so profound.
Yeah, there was this one person, and this is this remains to me a mystery, what really happened to the character. So there was this one person who I think was the only person who did not get blind in the community. When she looked up, hearing many people recover their eyesight, when she looked up, she only saw white light. And for me, I thought, did she get blind? After being the only person who did not get blind during that ordeal, was she the only person then who is blind after all that? So for me, I don't know, maybe she got blind because all she saw was white. And when Jose Saramago was describing blindness, he was not describing not seeing anything. He was not describing black or whatever. He was describing blindness as something that just
Philosophical.
not seeing any, just not seeing darkness, but seeing
Nothing.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I'd like to jump
And
on from the
it's like
question
Saramago.
you asked.
Guys, read him. Guys.
Please. I'd like to jump on from the question you asked, Mitch.
Yeah.
If there is a book that you would have wanted to write
Right.
yourself, what would that be?
And the answer was, I'm sorry.
This is the
This
one
was the one, Gilead.
you would read.
by-
You would write?
He said,
Not you.
me.
Yeah. And you, Ray, will be the next
Oh
to
my
answer that.
gosh.
There's a lot of books.
Oh my
actually.
gosh.
I know it's a difficult question to
It's
answer.
a difficult question, but we have to answer that.
Right?
Well,
Yeah.
I think, okay,
Yeah.
I already have an answer, and this is not this is not to show bias, but if I were to write something that, what is the question?
Yeah.
I would choose to write this letter from Fatima by retired RTC judge
Simeon
Simeon
Dudum,
Dudum Jr.
prolific writer.
Exactly.
Right.
Such an amazing poet. I
Why
think
this
5
one?
times.
Why this one?
5-time winner of
Palangka.
Palangka
Okay,
in poetry. Why this one? I can particularly relate to his experience. Talking about in this book. Well, it's actually not a book.
It's a collection of his.
No. I forgot the term. I'm sorry if somebody can remind me what that term is on Facebook. Please do. Hang on, it should be here somewhere, but it's I forgot.
What's the best thing about that book?
The best thing about it's actually poetry.
Okay.
There's a term for it. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 lines.
Haiku is 5 by
Is it
7.
haiku?
I forgot the term, but there's a term for this. I'm sure it's somewhere here. But yeah, let me go back to the question. I would want to write this one because when he wrote this as a product of his pilgrimage when he witnessed the canonization of
San Pedro Canoso. Okay.
yeah, and I happened to be in that.
To be there,
so-
covering for the Freeman.
Covering for the Freeman.
She was our correspondent.
I
She
was a
our
correspondent for the
special correspondent.
Yeah, thank you.
For that, for that, it was a big event for us. Of
When
course.
was this?
Thank you.
This was
2012.
yeah.
October 28th.
2012.
21 if I'm not
Oh,
mistaken.
Right. What about you, Ray? What book?
I'm
So
really
hi,
thinking.
Hi, Judge. I love this book. Oh my gosh. Congratulations because this won or got nominated for a national award.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
If I were to write something, I'd be biased. Harry Potter. It has to be Harry Potter. That's like one of the biggest books in my generation. And 7 books.
Yeah.
No, actually 6. There's 6 books in Harry Potter, but of course there were 7 movies because you have to divide the last book into 2 movies. But Harry Potter provided a different environment for me, so to speak. It was an escape for me when it kept me sane because Harry Potter started coming out when I was in college. And then eventually
When did it come out
transition.
for you?
I think I split 8, 9
Oh wow, you're very young.
years.
Yeah.
Imagine the
Are
age
you a fan? Are you a
difference.
fan of Harry Potter?
I enjoy Harry Potter. I like the aspect of his spells or adventures.
Right, magic.
That was my favorite
Magic.
part of the whole
Right.
thing.
Yeah. Continue. You're sorry. Sorry, I had to.
Where was I? Oh, it kept me sane. because when you work in the media, in journalism,
It's always facts.
it's always facts, and it can be so toxic, right? So Harry Potter provided an escape for me, a different kind of world, and it taught me
It's true.
acceptance, and eventually the biggest learning from J.K. Rowling, based on what she shared, was that you don't actually need magic to change the world because you can actually change it yourself.
Oh wow.
So, and the characters are very memorable to me. I still keep a copy
Who's your
of the movies.
favorite?
It is
Of course, Harry
Yeah.
Potter. Your favorite character?
My favorite character. Well, it has to be Harry.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah,
but
kicks some ass, yeah.
but based on my test, I'm actually
You're not in Gryffindor house,
I'm
come
not in
on.
Gryffindor
We belong
house,
to the
I'm
same
in
house.
Ravenclaw house.
We belong to the same house.
There's actually a test that you can take
Yeah.
online, which house you can belong to.
Yeah.
So there you go, Ravenclaw.
The fun
It is
online.
Yeah. I know. Okay, so what is the biggest lesson you've learned from reading?
Oh wait. To answer the question.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Sorry. Yes,
I
go
don't
ahead.
think I've quite met that book yet.
Oh,
Like
okay.
frankly, because I'm going through my head with writers that I've enjoyed reading, like poets, Ellen Hopkins, Basho, I enjoyed them. Even I like informational books, like Richard Grossinger, Diane Cooper. She explores the spiritual laws in the universe.
Wow.
Like what's
Okay.
our duty? What's our true purpose here? So it's kind of like The Secret,
Oh wow.
right? So these are the kind of things I'm like sort of thinking, oh, you know, like Harry Potter's fun.
That's okay. That's okay. But quick question. Do you still read fiction?
No, that's
Oh,
why.
okay.
But she's read a lot of fiction in her
Right.
classics when you were in high school,
like, I
right?
like
Classics, yeah.
Metamorphosis, Franz Kafka.
Yeah,
Okay.
I
Also
love.
Albert Camus. I really enjoyed that. It brought to me like a different kind of philosophy to life.
What do you think about Metamorphosis, Kafka?
It was really, at first when I started reading, I was like, what is this? Why is he suddenly a bug?
Like he
It's
would-
like my frank opinion. I was maybe 14, 15, somewhere at that time. I just thought it was so strange, but you know what? You never really know what can happen. Because my mom, when I was a kid, she would tell me, if mo badlong ka, ala, watch out. You never really know what the spiritual.
Yeah.
To me, it was like relating it to our culture. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, this can actually happen, and I don't really know. So I kept reading. I was like, this is really, to me, it kind of brought me closer to family in a sense,
Yeah.
because I just felt I can't quite remember it as vividly as I did when I was reading it at the time, but I just thought it was something that at that age I was like, wow, I'm growing up, and I feel like I should never let go of my family, or that someone that those are people who brought me to where I am, and I just felt like, why would this have happened? I know it was like a couple, and then the man turns into a beetle, like a cockroach beetle.
Yeah,
It's true. It's one of the
Have you read it?
strangest.
No, I
The
it's
strangest.
a very
story.
short story.
Really quick.
Yeah, really quick.
But
My favorite. Oh, go ahead.
sorry, but it's worth reading if you're someone who wants to experience the mindset of someone who's maybe from the Mediterranean, because I know the writer was from there, and what's life if you were to be good or bad to a family member or someone you love.
Yeah.
The turn of events you never really know. So magic is
That's actually what I love about books, the perspectives you get.
Yeah.
Because of course, authors are different, they come from
Yeah.
different places, different backgrounds,
Yeah.
different experiences, and then you can get all of this.
Yeah.
What just hit me? The Alchemist by Paulo
Of
Coelho.
course,
Yeah.
That would be
yes.
the book that I wish I would have written.
The
Okay.
darkest
This
hour
came
of
out.
the
Yes,
night
yes,
comes
yes,
before
yes.
the dawn.
I still have my
right?
copy of that.
Yeah.
It's always with me.
Yeah.
I
The
really
Alchemist.
that the universe will conspire to helping you achieve.
And I think
Yeah.
that's actually what happened to
Yes.
books. Well, you never planned this
Yeah,
to be
that's true.
this.
Yeah. Just to add to what you said about community, we can have so many opinions about the books that we have read. We can say we like it, but we have different reasons why we like it. We can say we dislike it and have so many, we can argue but not be disagreeable. That's really the essence of Book Swap, because when you read, it's really a personal experience. But when you are with a community, you get to expand your insights about that book, and that's the beauty of of gathering together people who love literature. You share your own experiences, you share your own insights about the book, and with that, you grow. You become more open-minded. You open your horizons to so many different things, ideas, opinions, and that's where respect for individuality.
Yeah.
Right. We can talk about the books, and we can spend the entire FB live. We can stay here forever. But yeah, that's really the beauty of sharing information that you get. Reading is very personal, but once you come together, it just explodes. Information just multiplies.
Have you ever read The Boy in the Striped Pajamas?
No.
I haven't. Tell us about it.
Yeah.
I forgot the name of the author, but it's about World War II, the setting when Hitler, his reign, right? And then you had the concentration camps. So one of the biggest ones were placed in Auschwitz. So it was about two friends. One was a Jewish boy, and one was a German Nazi. And like these two become friends over like a metal wall.
Oh wow!
If you go through this metal wall, you'll either be shocked or you'll die because it's very dangerous. But these two young boys, the innocence of their mindset and the unknowing, like, why are you there on the other side? They become friends, and it's so special. But one day, they were always to meet there at a certain time, at a certain date, and then one day, the boy in the striped pajamas never came. So it was a very like, oh my god, my heart kind of like, it fell out, it leaked, it touched me, and I thought, wow, this is so special. Because in that time, we can't go like, hey, you wanna see a movie? Oh hey,
that's right. I'm coming.
And then it's really like, okay, this is it. And then to have that kind of an end, I guess for them, a very special relationship is very eye-opening to someone who did not live in that time. Who did not have to
experience. Is this based on personal experience?
Based on my memory, I think so. Like it was based on not personal experience, but just living in that time.
It's inspired by events.
Yes.
Yeah.
That reminds me.
Have you read this, Kim?
Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, it was the book thief guy. But
the book thief. That's Khalifid, Hussein.
It's not the same author as
Sorry, I was getting mixed up.
It's really fun.
That's how you know, like, okay, there's a lot of like things.
The Jewish and
and then Nazis. It's really eye-opening, but aside from it bringing community, that I think builds the community more.
Yes, exactly.
You can save the information of existing in this time, like what newspapers do. It's the current events, and then you try to look back. What happened in that decade? What was it like to be there?
Yeah.
So that's what I think a novel would do. It's like the whole, it captures the whole thing of it, not just a small bit, not like a painting where it's like, okay, you're thinking about it. Now it's really, you're immersed in it. You're in this person's, in their shoes, and experiencing this part.
I think the beauty of reading is the more you read, the more books, the more you realize you're not reading enough.
Is this also the important lesson you've learned from reading?
Yes, I know that it's very unfortunate that I have a reading list that will not be finished until, you have a reading list that you will never finish in your lifetime. That's the sad part of it. That's why I think when I started to read, when I started to have the idea of what I wanted to read, I focused on award winners, like Pulitzer, Nobel. But I know that I have a reading list that I will not be able to finish. There's a list called 1001 Books You Read Before You Die.
A book about books.
A book about books. A list of books that you have to read. For a while, I only had that list to consider. But then I realized as I grew in my reading, I have to be intentional with the books that I read. It's not just, okay, I'll just read this for pleasure. Like you, I have to be intentional. I have to read this for information. There are so many books out there that will give you facts about what's happening in the natural world, the outside world, things that will help you explain what's happening around you. But my current preference of books are the books that will inform you so that you will become a better person. Better individual, maybe better speaker, And the books that I gravitate to now are, I have two books here actually. This came from a 65 set. This
Wow,
is
what
from
is this?
Great Books. So, sometime in the 1980s, a man, Britannica, I think, Encyclopedia Britannica, a man by the name of Mortimer Adler started to compile great books of the Western world. And so there are, I think, 65 books in this volume of great books. And I
this is
have here
volume
number
16?
16. This is by Saint Augustine, and I just really like it. I'm not yet done with it, but I'm reading the Confessions. And it will take a while for me to understand that the language is beautiful. Oh my gosh, I can't even. You have to read it for yourself.
Yeah,
The language
that's
is
also one of
beautiful.
the most important things I learned
Yeah.
from reading.
Yeah.
The writing,
Yes.
The styles, that
the
each
different
one
styles
has.
of writing, and which ones actually can you adopt.
Mm.
When I read Shakespeare, I was like, this is something else. This is beyond me. But it's interesting how language develops over time. And it goes back. This is the history of the lifestyle of people. And that.
Right.
It's interesting because Mortimer Adler commented on reading the classics. He said that you're not really reading if you stop reading because you have to check the meaning, the definition, you have to read the footnotes. You're
Yeah.
not really reading the book.
Yeah.
He recommended, especially for difficult reads, to just go through it
Just-
one time. And then after that one time, you can reread the book, and this time be more intentional. Sit with the book. So the first level of reading should be like one quick rundown of the book. Not stopping for the footnotes, not stopping to get the definition, not stopping to see whatever contents, table of contents, other references, but just read everything in one go. And then this next kind of reading should be like going
The more
over.
in-depth.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's what he said.
I think, and this is just me. I think this is the reason why 100 Years of Solitude didn't really work for me. Because I
Gabriele
was-
Garcia Marquez.
Yeah, I love the author, but
Yeah.
that book in particular, I just have to go back to the family
100
tree
Years of
every so often.
Yeah, because it stops you from really fully loving the book,
Yeah,
immersing
yeah,
the book.
yeah. So
But
for
I
instance-
love his Love in the Time of Cholera. I think that was beautiful, including Chronicles of a Death.
That's my favorite
Ah.
short story. Like I read it in 30 minutes or so.
Yeah, in one sitting. It's the
You
best
should
kind
try
of
it.
book.
You should read it. Chronicles of a Death Foretold. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
It's very thin. Yeah, it's very thin.
yeah.
It's very thin.
It's
Okay,
very funny.
so our biggest takeaways. The question now is, especially for the young,
Mhm.
when you have the Kindle and you have your tablets and you have the internet with you, why is it so important to actually read the physical books at this age and
Because
time?
I think reading how do I say this? Reading involves your senses. You can't just feel the book just by looking at your tablet. You
Okay.
have to be able to touch it, to flip the page,
You hear
to
that
write
sound,
on it.
that
Yes.
smell that comes out.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also a very physical activity as well as a mental activity. And these things, feeling, touching, folding the book, hearing it, turning the page, are lost when you choose the PDF, the ebooks. These experiences are lost. And they say, what was I going to say? They say that it also helps if you write on the book because you get to retain more
Yeah, your notes,
information by writing. And these things are lost when you just have the gadget or just look at a monitor or a screen.
Right, and I think that's also one of the tips that is given to students in law school, if I'm not
exactly.
mistaken.
Yeah, write on the book. In law school, we, in all honesty, get to read the book 4 times. That's only during regular classes. It's a different thing altogether when you prepare for the bar. It's like maybe times 2 after that.
So I'm sure the volume of reading in
Is
law
it
school
intense?
wasn't. Yeah, but the intensity was no longer a complete shock to you, considering you've grew up with books.
Yeah, because I've just always enjoyed sitting and reading.
What about you, Ray? Why do you think it's so important to get one, hold one, and read one?
I have two perceptions of a physical book.
Yeah.
There's the one where I appreciate that, when you're sharing a story to someone, whether they're older or younger than you, it's very nice to show them the visuals. They can see it, they can join you as you're reading to them. And I feel like for especially young readers, they're more engaged. Because you're now kind of acting it to them. I have a friend recently, she gave birth, she has a 1-year-old daughter, and she actually really has fun when she's looking, I'm reading along. Even though she's not speaking just yet, she's kind of making sounds and all this, it's fun to see. And then but the thing is, we're using paper, right? And paper takes 10 to 20%, it makes a 10 to 20% carbon footprint manufacturing it based on last year's statistics. So I guess there is a value to the PDF or the ebook versions where you save paper, but that light that it glares at you on the screen, it kind of hurts the eyes.
Right.
So I feel like
there's always a downside to it.
Everything, So there's pros and cons, but there's also ebooks that they have moving pictures now. So I see some kids who are 6 years old, they laugh with it, they have fun with it. So in my opinion, I just believe that whichever form fits you, because like what you said, Chappy, everyone's different, everyone's so unique. So whichever stands out to you, I think the important part is just to pick up a book, immerse yourself, and gain something from it. And if you can share it to someone, then that's the greatest thing to share. Knowledge.
Yeah,
that's true. It always gains. You can never lose it, and you can always share it to someone. It's the most valuable treasure. My grandfather taught me that.
That's true.
Yeah,
So,
very important lesson. For me, the most important lesson I've learned from reading the physical book is really focus.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, focus. And because when you go to the internet, as I've said earlier, you can't just focus.
So turn off those notifications. You can do it in your settings.
Right. But who does that?
And when you're bored, you scroll up.
The reason why you go online is practically because you want to go online. So, but that's just me.
You can download the app, right? The Kindle app.
Yeah.
There's iBooks on iPhone.
Yes, you can do that.
So just turn off the notifications when it's your reading. That's just a suggestion.
And
That can be one of the ways to navigate the complexities of reading today.
I also believe that having I got this volume that I got from my father. He gave it to me. This is a 63 volume set.
Do you have all 63?
I have all 7.
Have you read all 63?
And it sits in my library. And that's the beauty of actually owning a physical book. You are able to share it with another person.
It's a great present.
You can't do that.
Right.
Like for instance, this book. If my lolo did not buy this, certainly I would not be having this in my hands. This is again, have we shared them?
Spanish.
Yeah, this is 118. I would not have this with me if my grandfather did not decide to treasure this and pass it on to another person.
Right.
And I think that's the beauty of books. It's your personal possession, but you also have the obligation to share it, to pass it on.
Right.
It's so useless if it just sits on in a glass bookshelf.
Yeah.
It's useless. Right? So the idea is to share the books that you have. But this is a treasure, and this will forever sit in my library.
That's nice. Very, very interesting and important inputs from both of you. Before I wrap this up, Rayan, you have projects coming up?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, people are asking, after Miss Cebu, what is she up to?
She's so busy. The best is yet to come for this lady.
Go ahead, please share your projects.
There's still some obligations I have to fulfill, my duties as Miss Cebu, but I started my own charity project called Miss Cebu 2016's Assy and Butts. And it actually is an acronym for Artemis Strength for Saving Youth and Boys Ultimate Test of Strength. So what I'm doing from October 22, where the first event will be in William Carmen, I'll be sharing the sport of weightlifting in an elimination style competition. And hopefully it will encourage the youth to direct their energy into something positive. So here, literature and reading, you're exercising the brain muscles, but this is like more physical, right? You're exercising your body so you can grow and so you can feel great, and if you want to join basketball, dancing, or any other sport, you have the foundation, which is weightlifting.
Yeah.
And this
You're
will
building
continue.
literally strength.
Oh yes, and then it will continue until July of 2018. So it's a 10-month-long project that I'm starting, one event every month, and the reason why I'm starting it in the northern area of Cebu is because looking at its history, that's where the pirates first inhabited. And then in recent years, natural disasters hit, and then we have the war on drugs, and it's really taking a toll on the spirit of the youth. And if we continue to underlook these problems that we face, then what future will they have? And the youth is our future.
We are still the youth, by the way.
I'm 20 years old. Yes, I'm
We are considered youth.
still youth, you know.
Yeah.
But I feel like as someone who's a little bit older than like the teens and the preteens and the kids, to share to them sports, I think is something very valuable. When I wasn't reading as a kid growing up, I was outside. I was outside a lot. I was really tired.
And who else can best, of course, set that example and encourage them than Miss
We have a
Cebu?
very special guest also.
Oh.
A Rio Olympian will be joining
wow.
me. And then a friend of mine, who's the guitarista of the song Ha 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 Sula.
Oh, okay.
Henrik Pestaño, he'll be joining me as well, because I also like to write. I write my own music, some small original compositions, and I'll be sharing them with Henrik on that day, so during the intermission of the sports.
Interesting. Very, very nice. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
What about book swap? Future swaps?
I was gonna say, one of the benefits of reading is really being able to write. That's why you're creating your own music. That's why you're writing.
Yeah.
That's why you're also putting your literature out there and sharing with the world.
I agree.
For Book Swap Cebu, we still have our podcasts. So remember, we recorded our first one of the first podcasts with Joe Bertocao. So we have those podcasts. Please stay tuned. You can always go to www.bookswapcebu for updates
For future swaps.
events. Right? Yes.
Okay.
You can look for
And
my page
podcasts.
too.
Yes.
Yes, please.
What's your page? What's your page? Go ahead.
Miss Cebu 2016's ASSI, letter N, Buds. You can search it through there, or you can actually just type that into the search bar and it'll pull up the event or the page. And there's grassroots companies in the community also supporting me, so it brings people together. So it's really worth taking a look at.
And we wish you the very best of luck.
Thank you very much,
Yes.
Joe, for having me.
Ladies, thank you very much for
Thank
being
you,
here.
Gilbert.
This has been a very inspiring and educational afternoon. And of course, if you have book recommendations, please feel free to
Post them below.
yeah, the comment section. And your thoughts on books.
Oh, and join book swaps so we can share those books.
Right,
Exactly.
right.
Thank you.
And let's all embrace the importance and the value of learning and reading.
Oh yes.
Thank you very much for joining us
Thank
today.
you.
This has been the Freeman Conversations. I'm Joe Bertocao, online editor of the Freeman, and this is Rain and Charisse joining us today. Until next time, thanks.